Hi, I'm Lindsay, host of the Live Like Eden podcast. What do you do when your whole life flips upside down? Are you questioning everything, lost in chaos, or yearning for life's deeper meaning? I've been there, deep in the thick of it, unraveling my own awakening mess for over 20 years. Now I'm here to help you through yours. I share no-nonsense weekly wake-ups, cutting through the ego's illusions to wake you up to your own spiritual wisdom. No mountaintop bliss needed here, just practical tools, insights, and real-life experience to save you time. Plus, a much-needed laugh when we're all losing it. Let's dive into this fresh new episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Today, I am thrilled to sit down and share with you a chat I had with a woman by the name of Marcia Earhart. Marcia is a certified life, grief, trauma, brain, and mental health coach, and she is the founder of a nonprofit organization along with her family called the Sterling Rose Sanctuary. This sanctuary is devoted to supporting people struggling to find the light amidst tremendous grief. I know it's the holiday season, and for those of you that have lost your loved ones, I know how hard and difficult this time can be. So by sharing Marcia and her story of her own tremendous loss in her life, she is here to shine a light on how these difficult, painful moments can actually be moments of transformation. And she's a true testament to grace and resilience and remaining open on this path to liberation that she's going to share with you today. Marcia also has a best-selling book called Gripping Grace in the Garden of Grief. I will link the Sterling Rose Sanctuary and her book at the end of the show notes for you. For those of you that are in need of extra assistance, you're struggling with grief, Marcia walks her talk and lives her faith, and you will see that coming out in the show today. So I hope this show encourages you, helps you, provides comfort, and the true power that Spirit has to completely change our lives for the better. Enjoy today's show, and I will see you all next week. Welcome to the show, Marcia. I'm so glad you're joining me today.
Well, Lindsay, I'm so excited for us to be able to have this conversation, and I'm excited.
I am really excited not only to hear your story, but I'm excited for you to share all of your wisdom, it seems, that you've created over the years on loss and grief. This is something that will hit each and every one of us as we go through life. And, for those of us that walk the planet longer than others, it's, we're going to experience it probably more than those that don't. So I'd love to start the show, Marcia, by just giving you the floor, the space to share your personal story through your loss and grief and how that really became a catalyst for transformation in your life. And please just feel free to share as much as you'd like with us.
Well, I just think to start in the beginning. And so grief for me has been part of my life ever since 3.5. And so I had 17 very significant traumatic losses by the time I was 18 years old. I'm thankful for the parents I had because they really did teach me how to grieve and to grieve well. I feel in a society we do not have those tools accessible to us today. Somewhere something happened and they're not built in, they're not part of what we teach and really encourage. So as the years went on, I didn't even track all the ones past 18. I want your audience to know that. The Lord actually asked me just to write down the ones that I had lost during that season of life. And this would have been after our first son passed tragically on February 14th is when we got the news on 2014. So grief has visited us in numerous ways, not just as the loss of individuals, but loss of friends, loss of our dreams, different aspects of life. And in 2014, our life did implode when the loss of our oldest son happened. And it's part of the transformation that we're going to experience when we have loss. We can choose, Lindsay, whether to enter in or to not.
Right.
And it's really better for us to enter in. Grief should become a friend. And when I say that, it needs to be something that we learn to incorporate because the losses that will be ongoing in this life And we're not going to get away from it. I mean, you can have a loss of job, you can have a loss of your home, you can have a loss of finances, loss of your health, the loss of a relationship, or what you thought that relationship would look like.
Yeah.
And so there's so much when we talk about grief. So for our family, we had this experience happen in 2014. And the way there were four of us living in our house, well, five. Our oldest son was living there going to law school, and he actually passed on the road that
Mm.
was where our home was
Oh,
and where the
wow.
law school was. So we didn't just have that loss, we had to face it every day because we passed the tree that initially I was like, that tree took his life. I mean, that's just, as a mom, I was just like, that tree took his life. And we were going by that one day, and the Lord said, the tree didn't take his life. I received his life.
Mm.
And it just changed. There was a moment that changed for me. And he said, and when you pass this tree, I want this tree to be a marker for you to pray for those that are hurting, that are struggling with this loss. So our family incorporated that. That tree became a place to plant seeds of renewal for other people to be healed and for God to start doing a work in their lives. And so that tree changed for us for that. So we started applying those tools, and everyone's going to grieve differently. I am an internal processor. My daughter, who at the time was 16, was an internal processor. My son at 12 was an external processor, and so was my husband.
Hmm.
Uh, that can cause a little bit of complexity because you're wanting to talk about everything, and I'm doing this inwardly. So
Right.
we sat down and had to talk about boundaries when we could, when we couldn't, what we're capable of, what we're not capable of. And it just put up really good boundaries, but we wanted to be encouraging to each other, talked about the triggers for one another. What was healing to me was not necessarily healing to everyone else. So, how do I have what I need that is healing, but yet not triggering? Same thing. What was healing to some of them were not healing to me, could have been triggering. And we worked in that space to
Yeah.
have a strength come in it instead of continue to fracture us.
Well, you say something really beautiful there. It sounds like you worked together because, as you say, not everybody is going to grieve the same. And I hear stories, and I've known people who, have lost a child and then the marriage just falls apart, because of their difference in grieving or somebody's blaming the other one. So, can you speak a little more? Like, was there ever, when you lost your son, I mean, were you ever at odds with one another, or were you always united together on this grieving path? Was there ever moments where you were troubled together?
There were moments where there was a struggle. The struggle became down the road. My husband went into a spirit of grief.
Mm-hmm.
I was grieving with hope. My daughter was grieving with hope. And there's a difference. A
Yeah.
spirit of grief consumes you, and you go in the pit, and it
Mm.
defines you. And so the struggle became, I'm living among the living, you're living among the dead.
Okay.
And we had these conversations. My youngest son at 12, depression came on him. His
Mm-hmm.
life changed. He lost his childhood in that moment. Both my children lost whatever placement of life they had because this touched the very essence of every fiber of their life. Their brother was not just a brother, that brother was their best friend.
Yeah.
He was mentor, he was coach, he was comedic, he, entertained them.
Yeah.
He was everything. But yet, when I say that, they knew his flawedness. This wasn't a perfected, we're not making this about perfection, that we're the
Yeah.
perfect family. It was
Yeah.
so I just need that to be clear because I think we can go one extreme or the other on that.
Right.
They knew his flawedness. And my one daughter could very easily go, okay, you're being extra. Stop it. Like, just,
Yeah.
grow up. You shouldn't, and he could receive that from her. They had this
Yeah.
amazing relationship where she could, because she's very balanced. All my boys, I had four boys, all very emotional boys.
Yeah.
And my daughter was stable as a line. I mean, she just,
Oh,
and
isn't
still is
that
to this
funny?
day. Yeah, because everyone used to go, oh, my daughter. I went, we have a flip here. All of my boys are highly emotional. And so it was, God used that.
Mm-hmm.
for us to be able to walk through what you're talking about. And so we had some moments there where it was strained. And there was a
Yeah.
moment I didn't know if my husband and I would make it
Yeah.
as a husband and wife, that really I thought we were just going to be roommates by the end of it because
Yeah.
it wasn't going in the direction. And I told him, I said, I can't live like this because it's not healthy for me. And I can't, and because of my background, my family wanted to talk to me to help them process. And I wanted them to go to someone else.
Yeah.
Now, I could help them with the resources that I had, and I did. And we did those things all day. But if we need to go into this place where you need to keep externally processing, I need you to go talk to somebody else because I'm grieving too. And that's what I would say to my husband. I'm grieving too, and I can help you in certain aspects. This is where I can be present for you. But other than that, you've got to go somewhere else. And
Right.
he just didn't see the need for a while to do that.
Yeah.
And then there was that place where our marriage was just, like I said, it really wasn't thriving. It was
Yeah.
surviving.
Yeah.
And he made the conscious effort. I'm coming out of the pit. I want this marriage. I want to live among the living. I can see that I am not living. And he wasn't. And so, in my book that I have, I talk about the tree of life and the tree of death. We choose that place every day, Lindsay, whether we're choosing to live in the tree of life or the tree of death. And that's where, even when we have loss, we have to be careful with our mind thoughts because really the battle is in the mind. The negativity
Exactly.
comes in, it starts seeping in, and then it seeps in our bodies, and we become physically ill and we can become mentally ill because we're not processing and we're not applying tools that are so needed.
Oh, you're 100% right. And I like you're sharing the truth of that because I have to believe it happens to everybody. Was there a moment when your husband had clicked, like he snapped out of it, or was that a slow process for him?
Oh, no, there was a snap because I really basically went to him and said, Hey, you get a hall pass, but I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted, and we have other battles that I'm helping to fight and navigate because our youngest son went into a deep depression, became suicidal. That journey was very real. Lots of things going on. And yet my son's holding to his faith. God's giving him tools, additional tools for him to release that grief, that trauma, that pain. 12 years old, it's a lot
Oh, yeah.
to navigate. It's a lot for anyone, let's just be honest. But 12 years old, you don't have those resources really tucked in. You're not that strong in certain aspects. But my son is such a warrior and overcomer. He's 24 today. Just want everyone to know he's amazing and he fought well through it. But he had the support. My husband couldn't really even support him in
Yeah.
that journey, Lindsay. He couldn't. He didn't
Right.
have the ability. So as I went to him in 2018, and it was July, I know exactly the turning point. We had gotten a book, I Don't Want a Divorce. And I
Mm.
said, either we do this or we're headed in a very bad place. And we believe in the covenant of marriage. I can only do me. You've got to make a choice. And we had been out of town, the rest of my family. And when we came back, he said, I'm committed to do this. And we started working through the book together.
Oh,
And it
wow.
revived our marriage. And we started working together to become back into that partner commitment of loving one another, not allowing for the grief. Because what would happen is we would go out. We used to do date night, and we still do date night, but it was a weekly thing. And I didn't want to go because every time we went, he'd start crying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Sterling did not define our life. He was a welcome member to our life, and I miss him with every fiber of my being. But every time I'm out, it can't always become about Sterling.
Right. Yeah.
Now, your audience may be going, gosh, that's so cold. No, this is years in the works, people. I need you to understand where we started in 2014. We're down in 2018. There needs to be a processing that is happening and that we are incorporating the grief and we're moving forward
Right.
in that, and that it's incorporated with us in the sense that Sterling is with me. His memories are with me. I can
Yeah.
celebrate him. And yes, I may cry. Yes, I may have deep sorrow in the missing, but I can also allow myself to experience deep joy.
Right.
And that's part of the sharedness, that joy and sorrow are intermingled. And we need to know how to allow that in our life to be present.
Well, you bring up something so beautiful. Like you said early on, there is not, we aren't in a culture that is preparing us for the death and that celebration of life, knowing full
Mhm.
well that none of us are getting out of here in a body. I mean, that's the facts, right? We're all going to leave this
That's right.
plane. And in my opinion, it has to be a much better place. And as much as we will grieve and the human experience of losing our loved ones, like you just said, I can still move forward and celebrate this joyous person and son that you had in your life. And I have to ask, did that deepen your marriage relationship when you made the turning point to really work at it together?
In some ways, but I want to make it clear, we're never going to be the people we were before our son passed.
Hmm.
I don't want to be, and neither does my husband. We have become the new transformed version of what the Lord implanted in us and what we have walked into. And so, yes, but I mean, my kids to this day still see a difference in certain aspects because they're used to who we were. Now,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean we don't have a thriving marriage. Yes, we do. And we love deeply, but there are still, it's a process because see, we weren't finished with we had just entered 1 year. I want the audience to hear me. We just entered 1 year of our marriage, starting back, working, being cultivated. And so it would have been July, would have been 1 year in 2019. And then in October 26th of 2019, our second oldest son was murdered with his girlfriend.
Oh my God.
So we started all over again. That's why I want your audience to understand when I'm answering that question, we're now 6 years down from the murder.
Wow.
And so we started over and allowing ourselves this process. However, I didn't lose my husband that time.
Mm.
He didn't go into a spirit of grief. Nobody did. We all had the tools. We
Yeah.
all had the source, which was God himself, and the resources to tap into. And that journey of healing honestly was much quicker in the way that it came about because we had been plowing the field in our healing journey since 2014. So we were still fighting for the same thing, if that makes sense, but from a different stance.
Yeah. You had the experience, like you said, and the tools of how to move forward. I'm sure it was equally as devastating. I can't even
It was.
imagine. Oh, I can't
Yes,
even
because it was a
imagine.
murder. So now we
Right.
have a murder, and this is someone who chose to come, and it was my son's girlfriend's ex-boyfriend that had been estranged for a year and a half.
Wow.
No, no one could have really known that he flew in from another state
Oh
to
my
kill him.
gosh.
This wasn't like he just showed up and he lived around. He did not. This was intentional. So again, there are things that we had to work through. So in that one, it would have been forgiveness
Yeah. Big
for
time.
my husband and my son. My husband and my son really struggled with forgiveness
Yeah.
uh, because we want a sense of justice. We want to make right what is wrong, which is normal. That God does give us that desire. However, our mindset matters and how we want to do that.
Yeah.
And so that was a really amazing process to watch how God worked in both my husband and my son, and they have come into that place of complete forgiveness. And the audience may go, well, why are you leaving yourself and your daughter out? Because my daughter and I were very quick to forgive, and I want it to be understood. I understand my own depravity
Hmm. Well, I was wondering that because you kind of were hinting that you must have forgiven easier than your husband and your son.
because I know I have murdered in my own mind. I have. I may not have the gun or the knife, but I have murdered in my mind. I have wished someone dead. I have. I mean, now I've
Yeah.
confessed that to the Lord. I'm not sitting over here wishing people, but I mean, I have. And God was so gracious to forgive me, and He still is. And so, who am I not to be able to extend that forgiveness to someone else, even if they don't ask? And I need it to be clear, he doesn't need to ask me. My desire, and I even wrote to him, it's in my book, I wrote to him that I have been praying for this man to
Yeah.
know how loved he is. I've been praying for him to come to a place to admit his guilt so that he can be cleansed of all unrighteousness, that he can be released of that bondage on him. I
Right.
want that for him.
Well, and that's a beautiful place. You're coming from a very big heart space of unconditional love, is what you're talking about, no matter what a person has done. And then to get inside of their mind, I mean, did you do that? Try to, whatever he was thinking and believing in the moment led him to do this. He's trapped in his own mind. And that, I mean, just that you could see that and forgive so easily is beautiful. I mean, most of us cannot do that. Most people will not see it in that way. And the other thing I like that you said is you said, well, I'm murdered in my own mind. And whether you actually commit something physically, but just thinking it alone is the same thing. The separation from someone else, the judgment upon someone else, yeah, is exactly the
Yeah.
same. Uh-huh.
Can I read something to you that's
Oh,
in my book?
absolutely. Yes, please do.
This is the letter I wrote to him. It's called Forgiven and Released. It says, forgiveness is a form of voluntary suffering. In forgiving rather than retaliating, you make a choice to bear the cost. And that's from Tim Keller. And it says, even though we seek justice for the wrongs you've done, your salvation, our souls groan. I'm sure that when the police didn't arrest you quickly, you believed you had carried out the perfect crime. Well, the power of prayer and the gathering of evidence presents itself all in due time. Whatever sentence you receive, true freedom is in Christ. When you seek forgiveness from Him, you will experience the weight of being lifted from your mind, soul, and every limb. You may think this is the craziest thing for the mom whose son you murdered to be so concerned about your spiritual welfare. Experiencing the immense love of Jesus and the grace He has shown me, wiping away all my sins is the reason I so deeply care. The Holy Spirit grieves over the losses of everyone affected by this tragedy and trauma. Because of your actions, their children and yours will live without a daddy and a mama. Admitting your guilt and seeking forgiveness can allow God to heal, ending the internal saga. I pray you experience Jesus washing your soul, as He's the only one who can make you whole. He created you before the foundation of the earth, containing you within Himself, claiming your worth. Far too long you have entertained the enemy's lies and have taken part in his schemes and demise. You have willingly allowed yourself to be his vessel. Without surrendering fully to Jesus, you will continue to wrestle. He invites you to repent and receive his forgiveness, mercy, and grace. In his presence, you'll release the weight of shame and shed every trace of disgrace. What a glorious moment it will be to stand before him face to face. My home is in heaven. I'm just traveling through this world. Billy Graham.
That was such a beautiful letter. For anybody listening who has trouble forgiving, and this is an extreme circumstance, I mean, that was just perfectly summed up. What was your experience with your family? I know that when you have something like that, if you're dealing with a murder, I like to think like the mind is immediately one to go attack and kill the person, right?
Sure.
Yeah, like I could imagine my own husband saying he's going to go kill somebody. It's like,
Oh, no, I mean, because the warrior in them, way to
yeah,
go. I mean,
yeah,
there needs justice. If the police don't do it, I'll do it.
oh yeah. Were you always like that, Marcia, as a child, given the loss that you had gone through? Or were you just like this, where you just, it seems like you have spirit just moving through you and you understand on a much deeper level kind of what's going on here? Is that just innate in you?
Yeah, no, I think it's life experiences. We go through the fire.
Hmm.
Girl, I've been tried through the fire. I've been thrown in the fire. I have been not consumed, but definitely I've walked through. And yeah, no, I had some anger. There was anger. There was a time in my life that, oh my gosh, my sense of justice, I'd have hijacked you up on the wall myself, and we'd have yelled.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's sin, because now anger is turning to sin. And
Mm.
I think as we become sanctified, as we seek his holiness and we desire to be made holy, he's going to burn that stuff off of us. Praise him for that. That, we don't have to operate out of the same systems of that old wineskin because he's constantly renewing our mind if we're going in his presence and he's giving us new wineskin and he's showing us how to live in the character of who Christ is himself. And as a believer, I mean, that's what I want to live out of. Now, it's not perfect, obviously. I mean, he's not done with me yet. I'm still in fiery places
Yeah.
because, you know, that's always, he says that daily we're to go in and be transformed in our mind as we come into his presence. So it's a daily, ongoing process.
What are some of the tools and daily practices that you do? I know, maybe we can get into what you do now. I mean, you're a
Mhm.
grief trauma coach, life coach. First thing I want to ask though before you get into that is were you always a grief coach or did you just start that after the loss of your first son?
I had the training in the background, family relations, child development, counseling from my college years and had been counseling numerous people in grieving circumstances, many women who were married to narcissists coming out of their marriages,
Hmm.
children who had been violated by their husbands, and so sexual trauma. So grief has been very much a part of my work in helping others, never identifying it as such. Honestly, till after my son passed, the Lord said, I want you to transition over to these things. And I went to Light University and started getting training to transition into being a coach because I've always actually coached. I've always never done just the traditional therapeutic, you come, let me hear you. I really have always given homework. I've always said, if you're here and you want to get there, what are you willing to do to get there? And then give them practical things that they could do to get to that point.
Yeah.
So the Lord really called for a transition, Lindsay, in that point in my life, and I walked in it
Yeah.
and embraced that. He wanted me to become a resource for those grieving that I could reach back and I could be there for them because now I have another aspect of depth to
Hmm.
bring in, and especially for parents who have lost a child.
Right.
Vastly different. Don't say that and I, there are going to be parents that get mad. I cannot say that losing the child is the most horrific thing that anyone can experience because I'm not all people.
Right. You can't possibly
And
be
I,
that.
I, I don't think we can really gauge one's experience and one's loss against another. I personally don't like that analogy when someone says that's the greatest loss. It's one of the greatest losses I've experienced twice. But I've experienced a lot of losses, and those losses all hold significant places in my life. So I don't weigh one against the other. And I think as someone who's lost a child, they have to learn first and foremost, we were talking about tools, give yourself permission to grieve.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't. Be understanding that other people's experiences have not necessarily prepared them to walk in your experience. And because you lose a friend or friendships, it's not because you lost a child, it's because they don't have the capacity and the ability to walk through it with you. Let go of that with grace instead of taking that in your soul as an assault
Yeah.
on your character, another loss. And I want to make this, we lost friends at different junctures. And especially after our second child passed. I get it. And what the Lord said to me is, in order for me to do new things, I need to remove some of the others. And in order for me to give you those that really I want to come alongside and walk with you, we've got to make room. It's like in your home, decluttering so that you can rearrange and have the
Yeah.
beauty of what
Ex-
you have seen
Yeah.
because it's just gotten so cluttered. And that's what the Lord showed me. And so I think that that is a decluttering in order for us to have those new experiences and allow for them to be a part of our life. And yes, it may be hard because it's part of loss, it's part of the grieving, but there's also a kindness that it's in that same thread
Yeah.
because it's a letting go and it's a receiving. So we have to learn to let go and receive. We tell all of our clients, get outside in nature.
Mm-hmm.
You must get outside for healing to start being transformative and for the mind and the body to start being able to breathe, move, and live again. And our tagline is breathe again, move again, live again. Why? Because when we're grieving, breathing becomes very shallow. So we work with breathing techniques with our clients so that
Mm-hmm.
they can increase diaphragmatic breathing so they can have the oxygen that's needed to release toxins from their body.
Right. And release the
Yes,
constriction of grief
yes, the
and,
tightness.
yes,
Yes,
the
yes, so they can.
tortoise shell is coming out
Yes,
and yeah.
yes.
Well, what can you say? Because you bring up, you kind of have not been saying it, but I've been hearing it. You as a mother, you're having to grieve yourself for the loss of your son and people that you work with. Maybe you could speak to this too. What about parents? They've lost a child, but then they have other children. So they're grieving themselves and they're also trying to take care of everybody else in the family. Do you notice that some of those adults, like you said, they don't grieve because they're too busy taking care of the rest of the family, trying to help them? Or what is your take on that?
Well, what I have traditionally seen is that the kids are forgotten in the grief journey
Mm,
for most
mm.
parents
Oh, really?
because they're overwhelmed. Yes, ma'am. They're overwhelmed. They're checked out. They're not able to process their own pain. And so the kids quite often are missed in this equation.
Hmm.
And no fault. I want to be honest, this is no fault to the parent, but what I want every parent to hear me say, if a child tells you they're okay, we don't need to receive okay. Any child who has had a loss of a sibling should be in some form of counseling or coaching. I would encourage them not counseling, but to a grief coach. A grief coach actually works with that. And there are things that need to be able to be implemented and tools for your child. It's
Yeah.
essential. And for the parent, do this. That's what we do this with families. Find a place that's willing to do this as a family. So you're aware of what those tools are. You can be implementing them because anything your children are able to implement, you are too. And it also keeps the conversation very open and fluid. And that's what we want when grieving. What happens is everybody kind of goes to their corner. It's like being in a ring, but everybody's in their corner and they're all just dealing in their corner with their stuff. And they're
Yeah.
not coming back to center ring,
Yeah.
Lindsay. And
Yeah.
that's why the families, end up fracturing. So there's a 76% chance that a child who has lost a sibling will turn to drugs, alcohol, or become suicidal.
Yeah. I can believe it because they're
So,
bottling it all up. Yeah.
yes. And again, let's go back. It doesn't matter if they're elementary, middle, or high school. They need the resources. They really do need to have that aspect of tools in their life, but they also need their parents present. And
Mm-hmm.
initially, they may not be present because they can't be.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the good thing of someone that's like, okay, like we unpack, we do the Enneagram, we do the spiritual Enneagram, and we do that because we want everyone to understand everybody here has a different way they're going to process life. Let's
Yeah.
look at how all this works, intermingles, and the conflict that's going to come from this.
Yeah.
So we believe that we need to work with the families and then we can work with you individually. But our desire is for you to get closer together as that cord of three strands that's talked about, so that cord tightens instead of loosens and becomes frayed and just cuts off.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can speak to now your nonprofit, right? I've got it here, the Sterling Rose Sanctuary. Is that you have a physical place that you in Florida, or to explain to me how this works? How can you get help? And is it just individuals? I hear you're working with families, but do you have programs? How do you operate?
No program. It really is for individual couples and a family. It's not group setting.
Mm-hmm.
I want to speak on that. When we're already impacted by trauma, that is not the time to go in a group setting and hear everyone else's trauma.
Yeah.
I feel like that complicates and it makes things more difficult. I
Mm-hmm.
think we need a time and a space and a season where we're unpacking this, we're working through these things, and then we can walk into those places where other people are if we're at a place where we can receive that and it doesn't tap out our soul.
Yeah.
And so we do not yet have a physical place. We are the physical embodiment of the Sterling Rose Sanctuary. We travel to be with people. We have people come to be here. And we work all over the United States and in 6 countries on the phone.
Oh, wow.
Most of the grief work we can do can be on the phone, and the releasing of the trauma, releasing of the pain, the renewing of those fractured parts so that they can breathe, move, and live again in their created design. Because we have parts that are fractured, not just
Right.
one, but multiple. And so we work with each part. And that's just healing in and of itself. And we see the healing that happens, and the families experience the healing that happens. We are raising funds
Mm-hmm.
for a physical place, and we are praying that people that it resonates with would pour into and sow seed because we need this kind of healing place
Oh, yeah.
because there was no place for families when our first son passed. We
Yeah.
looked. I said to my family, we need to go somewhere. There was nowhere. Well, guess what? I didn't know God was going to birth that out of, had no clue. That was not my intention, but I am just like, I can't believe there's not, that had a place for children. They had a place for couples. Our kids did not want to be separated, nor should they have been
Right.
at a time like that. This is a
No.
time the family needs to draw together
Yeah. Well,
and be cohesive.
exactly. Why do you think that it's so missing in our culture? Why is this like grieving loss? Why is it not there? Like, why is there not a larger support network for a natural part of life?
I think
It,
it's denial.
yeah.
It's a sense of denial that we don't really I mean, even when we've sent out for, nonprofit to try and our nonprofit status, we'll send out for grants. Grief is not something that is welcome. Now, we do put mental health because we are boots on the ground. 97% of the people that go to a counselor and a coach are going due to unresolved grief.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to grief and trauma, they're going due to unresolved grief. That means that our mental health crisis is due to unresolved grief.
Yeah.
And so, what's happened with mental health? We're not addressing it. And what's the biggest component behind it, Lindsay? Grief.
Yeah.
So, there is a sense of denial. And even our grant writer, she said, I have never been denied so many grants. She's had a
Wow.
really great success rate. And she's just like, this, you're right. This whole grief component really makes people just shrink back. And it's sad because we're available to all people, believer, non-believer. Because see, Jesus said he came to heal all people. I need everybody to hear that. He came to heal all people. He didn't see only those that believe me. And if we go to
Yeah.
scripture, half the time, most of those people did not even know him. And they might have known his name, but they did not have this personal relationship with him. And he healed. And
Yeah.
so we believe that is part of bringing heaven to earth is to have that healing for the purposes that you can breathe, move, and live and not be kept in a spirit of grief where the
Right.
enemy now has defined your life. But see, we have to go back. God already created our lives in fullness. And the enemy's looking for every way to hijack us from being able to fulfill our purposes. And to me, grief is one of the biggest areas that he uses.
Well, and is there something to maybe wanting us to stay in a state of grief so then like mental health professionals can pathologize you and now we can start labeling you with all sorts of different mental health problems and then you bring in pharma and now we've got a business, right?
So you've hit the second layer of that. I truly believe that it is for the purposes and intentions for Big Pharma to continue to give people diagnoses
Yeah.
with medications. And one of the things I can tell people, people that have come here, sometimes they may need medication, other times they go off their medications because there's been healing, which
Yeah.
we see quite often.
Yeah.
And I am also a brain coach from the Amen Institute, which
Oh,
they are brain health, I mean, extravaganza. So I love that all that they incorporate. And even though Dr. Amen sees a need for medication, he will do everything that is natural and holistic before medication comes on to the table.
well, it's an industry. And as long as you keep putting people in boxes, they've got a massive profit on the table. That's just the
Mhm.
reality of it. But it's like all they really need is what you're offering: support, a
That's right.
space. You're
That's
holding
right.
this sacred space for them to share, to let it out. It's okay. And it
Mhm.
seems like it's like brush it under the rug and move on with your life and don't deal with anything, and then,
Well,
and
that's
then what?
it. I do. Yes. Yes. And that's why you continue to have physical problems,
Yeah.
health problems. Because if we're not dealing with the emotional problems, all the body keeps the score. The
Yeah.
body keeps the score and it becomes very toxic. The mind becomes toxic. And the reality is we want to provide that space, that healing ground for people to come and to go through. The rooms are beautiful that the Lord laid out as to how it's to be, what it's to look like. And we're just like, God, it's yours. And we just keep praying into it and asking Him to bring the cattle on the hill, to bring it in, because it is needed. And I truly believe there are going to need to be multiple places like this, not just ours.
I was
I think ours
thinking
will set the no, it needs to be. I think every state could
every
would be.
town.
Well, it would be honestly, it would be. I mean, like every major city around us would be of
Yes.
vital importance because once we start understanding that healing can happen organically and in the spaces where we're releasing the negative things out of us and we're able to return to joy and return to the places that we were called, oh my goodness, the life that we're able to live.
Oh, I know. Well, but Marcia, they don't want that.
I know they
It's a
don't.
battle. I
But
mean,
but the sad thing is people have bought into the lie,
oh, they
Lindsay.
have. It is
They
so
have.
big. The lie is
Yeah.
so big and so massive. I don't think people really grasp the enormity of that. But
Mm-mm.
thanks to you for your beautiful work and, keep doing that because one day I have a very big image that you'll have your physical location, that would be amazing. And honestly, you're in Florida for those of you that can't see her. And that's a perfect space to come. It's
It
warm,
is.
it's
And the Lord
outside.
moved us to this place we didn't even know about. And it's like, what? And he's like, yes, go there. And it is beautiful here. And I'm just like, okay, we're being obedient to the things you have called us to. And so
Yeah.
you've just got to bring it in. And
Yeah.
I have to be honest, the churches are not really supportive to this.
That's not surprising to either.
No, I just want people to understand this has to be out of the church. It has to be the body of Christ. Yeah, and those who are not believers that understand the purpose and intention of healing
Yeah.
and that it actually can happen and does.
Right. Well, and the message of, and I'm not a particularly religious person, but because of, I think that messages of Jesus don't always go in the church, that never set well with me. I mean, he's basically saying we're all to be healed. So I think what you're saying is beautiful. It's really, really amazing.
Let's go back to that one little phrase. So the scripture's in Isaiah and it says that Jesus came to set the captive free. So he opens the door wide to set the captive free, to be close to the brokenhearted, to heal them. And the next verse, to restore their ruins. Oh my gosh,
I
how
love
much
it.
more beautiful can that be?
Now it's spot
To
on.
restore, and he restores their ruins. And that's what this whole process is to be about, restoring your ruins, people.
Yeah.
You do not have to live in that ruin.
No.
It does not get the last word unless you say it does.
Yeah. And that's empowering. And that becomes very empowering for people, once they realize
Yeah.
they can do that, that transformative aspect that we're talking about. Can you speak to, let me ask you this question. What do you say to people who say there's only certain stages of grief or they put it in this box I'm sure you've worked with people. There's no formula for grief. I'm assuming it's
Well, there
just,
isn't. And when Kubler-Ross was talking about the 5 stages, she was not talking about grief. She was talking about people dying. And that
uh,
has been misquoted, misunderstood. And I wish everybody would go and tell 20 people when they hear this, it was not the stages of grief. They're not stages of grief. Let me just go on and tell people they're not stages of grief. Grief is your journey. It is contingent on how you walk through that journey. I never felt anger. I need everybody to understand I didn't feel anger. I didn't because I know the Lord. My children were gifts to me. I received them as gifts. He can give and take away, and he didn't take my children. I want to make that clear too. The enemy didn't take my children. My children's day and hour was already set before the foundations of the heaven and the earth. There's nothing I could have done to change that.
yeah.
It was going to be. So the wish I shoulda, could have was never part of, and that's one of the things we talk about with our clients. They
Yes.
come in with wish I coulda, shoulda, and so we unpack the wish I shoulda, could have,
Hmm.
and we talk about the thorns so that we can understand, so we can really appreciate each petal on the rose. Why the rose? Because the rose cannot be in its fullness without that thorn.
Mm, that's beautiful. There's your symbol for why you named it, right?
Yes,
Why
and
you
there's a
named the rose.
coexistence that we have that. They're opposites, but they work
Yeah.
to bring about the beauty of where we're living in this life.
Wow, Marcia, I am just like sitting here going, you're such a strong healing force. I can just see it in you, feel it in what you're saying, and you're offering such an amazing service. Like people that are listening that are struggling, and maybe you've gone through a sudden loss of a friend, a family member, even do you deal with loss in general? Does it have to be
Loss
people?
in
Just loss in
general, yes.
general. Yeah.
We deal with loss in general, and we deal with sexual ritual abuse,
Oh, okay.
sexual abuse. We deal with everything that you can imagine.
Can I ask you that real quick since you brought it up? The sexual ritual abuse. I've gone into this topic before, not on the show, but I've researched it myself. How prominent is that? Like, how many, do you have a lot of people that go through this?
I do, and it has been shocking to me.
I
And y'all, I
bet.
have been very engaged in this culture. I had no idea how prevalent this is among the people we are working with,
Yeah.
sitting with, interacting with in the grocery store. It is very prevalent. However, because it's been taboo,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and again, people have known. But I have people that find me. I don't even know how they find me. Like they don't even know how they find me
Yeah.
sometimes. They're like, oh, I heard about you, but I don't know who. Or I saw you on the website. It is incredible. But even in that, and I just have to say, God is so good. He has equipped me to be able to walk in those spaces, to bring healing, because there is a grief when we were hijacked before we ever were allowed
Mm,
to be who we were created.
yeah.
Molestation, sexual infractions,
Oh,
rape, all of that, it impacts us in ways that we cannot imagine. And so all of that needs healing
yeah.
in order to have a restoration and a resuscitation into being able to live in the redemption of who we were created to be before the foundations of the heaven and the earth. And it is, girl, I am on holy ground every day. It is beautiful watching the Father, Jesus, and Holy Spirit do what they do. I cannot touch that. It truly is holy.
Yeah.
And to see the shedding off and the renewal and the putting on the beauty is just unbelievable. It's incredible.
Maybe before we, wrap up today, Marcia, can you share a story of maybe someone a family you've worked or somebody that you witnessed just a real powerful transformation in them walking into the light? Can you maybe leave the listener with some hope, somebody who's in the dark, right? Really in a dark place, grieving, like you said, in that living in the death rather than living in the light. Maybe somebody you've seen personally that's made a major life shift.
Do you want it from sexual sin, from grief,
Anything,
which are both? But
yeah, anything transformative. It doesn't matter about the form
well,
too
I'll give you
much.
this. This was a lady that came to me. She was 59. She had been grossly abused by her mother and her father. Her father was in the military. And was very abusive when he was around. And when he left, the mother had three children, and she put them in a basement and left and was gone for over a week and a half. They had nothing. She was three at the
What?
time. Yeah, she was three. She was in diapers. And she
Mm.
said this, she remembered the smell. Anyway, it was very intense.
Yeah.
And the neighbor finally heard them crying because they had this little basement area that had one of those little windows.
Yeah.
They got in, they got them. Well, she was so fearful because the mother would take this sack with nails and hit them.
Oh,
So, I mean, I'm just going to tell you, and I want your listeners to understand this is what her life had been like. And so she went from one abusive place to another abusive place because there had not been any healing. She was raped at 16 and forced by her parents to have the baby
like
and to
unbelievable.
raise the baby. And so, I mean, the story continued, and there was one gross negligence and abuse after another. And here she was at 59. And I have to tell you, this heart sink went on for 4 hours.
Wow.
All of those wounded, fractured parts came rushing in the presence of the Father and Son to be healed, naming themselves. And long story short, Jesus spoke to each and every one of them as he healed them. And then he gave them their new assignment. And I cry when I'm writing all this down because it is holy ground and it is miraculous to see the work in the hands of our Father. And she is glowing, people. I am seeing her glowing. I am like, tell me what is happening. And she said, I've never been horseback riding. And all of the parts are getting on white horses.
Oh,
And Jesus is on the main white horse, and he's taking us off with him.
wow.
And it is incredible. And her life was transformed, and she has lived in the wholeness
Mm.
for the rest of her days since we went through that process. And I think we met two other times after that. And she lives in joy.
Wow.
And in restoration, she was resurrected, she was redeemed. And so it doesn't matter how old. And I even said, tell me at your age. And I love that you reached out. And I have a lot of people that reach out, but someone who's older to make that intention to reach out. She said, the Lord said, I have greater things for you. I just
Mm.
need you to be able to get in the place where you can receive them.
Well, and that's the key word there is receive them. She was finally ready
Yeah,
to receive it. And what an
exactly.
amazing story. Like it sounded like what a horrific childhood. I mean,
Well, her whole
unbelievable.
life had really had a lot of trauma. I mean, and
Yeah.
and even her first marriage. I mean, but I just again to see God do something that human hands cannot do, and
Yeah.
human counseling cannot touch that. I just need everyone to hear me.
Hmm.
We could have talked all day for 5 hours, and I would have not been able to do
Right.
any of that.
Yeah.
But I could take her into the source. I could lead all those parts into the places. I could love on those parts. And girl, I love those parts. Because those parts, even though they're wounded and broken, it's why she survived and got where she did.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, that is such a beautiful story to leave us with, Marcia. For anybody listening who's in the throes of serious trauma, there's always a way, right? There's always the space
Always.
for spirit to guide us to joy and love and a better life, right? So, Marcia,
Yeah.
I thank you so much for joining me today. And I am going to link your services in the show notes, the Sterling Rose Sanctuary. If anybody out there is struggling, you can hear the warmth and the experience that you have and the wisdom that you share. So please reach out to her. And I'll also link your book. And I'm sure that's an amazing story as well. So thank you so, so much for sharing all of your tragedies and how you transformed them into such a beautiful life.
Well, and I do just want to say the book is really a companion for those grieving that need someone to just walk with them
Yeah.
in helping them. And our God is a transformative God. And I want everyone to know He transforms every life that just says yes.
Well, that's a beautiful thing to leave with, Marcia. Thank you so, so much. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Lindsay.
That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. If it resonated, please share, follow, and drop a review with your takeaways. It really means a lot. Visit my website at livelikeeden.com to subscribe for weekly reminders and blogs, or sign up for a free 30-minute consult to explore one-on-one guidance sessions if you're really struggling in Awakening's darkness. Take my Awakening quiz to get a personal podcast playlist that meets you exactly where you're at. See you next week for another deep dive.